Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another rousing edition of the Lap Down. I am your host, Greg Farmer, and with me tonight is Jamie, Tyler, Ryan, and back from his 4-week-long nap since the last time he was here, JP. I'm just kidding,
Hi.
JP, I'm glad you're back with us. JP had a surgery a couple weeks ago, and it seems like he's recovering pretty well. But boys, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well.
Doing good. Hope you're feeling well rested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little jet lagged, but I'm here.
Yep. Ryan had a trip over the weekend too. He went to, was it Wisconsin? Was it?
Yep, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yep. We talked about it last week. Pokemon tournament, right?
Yep.
I have a good memory. So as always, a big thank you to Will and the Alkali Project for the intro music and outro music on the show. Please be sure to check out their music wherever you stream your favorite songs. We are going to jump right in it because we have a packed show tonight. Some breaking news hot off the press just this morning. As first mentioned on this podcast just a couple of weeks ago, NASCAR made it official this morning that Homestead, Miami will host the 2026 championship weekend as part of a rotation of tracks. They did say that Phoenix will be in the rotation and the other track or tracks, there's not confirmed how many will be in the rotation, are to be determined. And I have to say that the way they announced it on their social media platforms this morning was beyond short of amazing. It was one of the most creative announcements I've ever seen, with Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski doing a Back to the Future style announcement. I loved it very much. But I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Homestead returning as championship weekend and maybe some predictions on what the other track or tracks may be, starting with Jamie.
I think I'm definitely a fan of Homestead. I liked the racing that was there. I thought it was competitive. It wasn't there wasn't a point where you felt like any one of the contenders had no shot, or there was one car who was just dominant the entire time. It brings a lot of side by side. It brings a lot of drama per se. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting a change of pace and going to somewhere that has been proven as a good spot. As far as the other track is concerned, I mean, I wouldn't mind Vegas being one. I know that I'm a minority in that, but I like the racing that's out in Vegas. That would be my pick.
I don't think you're in the minority. I think a lot of us want to see Vegas. It's just all of a matter if SMI will be willing to do something like that. We were talking in our group chat earlier today about the potential for Kansas, but Ryan did bring up a good point. Kansas in November is not necessarily the greatest weather. But we'll get your guys, everybody else's thoughts. Tyler, you want to go next?
I'm actually really excited about the fact that they're bringing back Miami, and then the fact that it's literally Back to the Future. That was an awesome announcement. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan, and the cool part is I do like the thing, but I was thinking maybe I do agree with Las Vegas, and I actually had the idea of Charlotte in November.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, again, that's just Charlotte and Vegas. They both have the SMI problem.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, SMI owns most of the mile and a half. We couldn't really. So there's literally 3 mile and a halves that are owned by SMI.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, but also again, the fact that it's almost a constant battle between SMI trying to get more and more track dates in NASCAR, trying to hold on to as many of the track dates at NASCAR-owned tracks as possible. That championship venue, I mean, NASCAR has had that ever since they acquired ISC. I don't think they want to give up the rights to the championship race. And if they do, the fear would be that potentially SMI tries to take hold of them, because while we love some of the SMI tracks, SMI is also the track that also owns and has been the lead on reconfigurations like Texas and Bristol, which we've talked about over the last couple of weeks of. We don't necessarily love Texas, and Bristol, at least right now, seems a little broken.
Well, how about this? Give us a list of the tracks that SMI owns, and we can pick from that list.
Well, I've got the ISC tracks, the NASCAR-owned tracks. I've got that list already pulled up, so.
Okay, pull it up real quick.
So
Yeah,
SMI would be Atlanta, Charlotte, Vegas, Sonoma, Bristol, Dover, and North Wilkesboro.
And Nashville.
And Nashville.
Yeah, so here's the list of ISC. These are the ones that I think realistically, these are tracks that are owned by NASCAR, so they'd be the easiest ones to fit in. Auto Club, currently in the middle of a reconfiguration. Who knows when or if we'll ever see anything at that track again. Chicagoland, I don't know if they've torn down that track entirely yet or not. Darlington could be an interesting option. Darlington being a NASCAR-owned track.
As far as I know, Chicagoland is still standing, and let's not forget that Kentucky is also owned by SMI as well.
Yeah, the Kentucky Speedway, yep. And then Homestead, Miami, Daytona, we already know won't be a part of it because they're gonna skip road courses and super speedways, which I think is a great choice because the randomness of a super speedway race for a winner takes all event. I mean, it literally could end up being a battle of, okay, who even makes it to the end of one of those races?
Which would also take Atlanta. It would take Atlanta out of the equation too.
Yeah, Atlanta, Talladega, both out of it. But yeah, so Homestead, Kansas, both theoretically work, although the weather in November for Kansas could be a bit of an issue. Martinsville Speedway, Michigan, again, cold, probably a little too cold in Michigan that time of year. Phoenix, Nazareth and Pikes Peak, I don't think either or one of those are really options. Then you've got Richmond, Rockingham. Rockingham could be an interesting championship finale if they were to bring Rockingham to the Cup schedule, although I'd want to see a regular race there before I would just start penciling them in for a championship date. And then they've got that's a drag race track. Then they've got Talladega and Watkins Glen.
So based off of that, if I was a betting person, they're probably going to go with the things that they know. So
yeah,
I'm expecting that.
Yeah, I'm guessing it'll be some sort of rotation. My guess would be, it'll be Phoenix, Homestead, and then possibly a Darlington, which Darlington for a championship finale sounds like an amazing option.
You took the words. You took the words right out of my mouth, Ryan, because I was going to say, if you're NASCAR, you're going to look for areas that have the best weather around that time of year. And you're thinking, obviously Homestead, obviously Phoenix, and out of those tracks that you just listed, Darlington would make the most sense.
Yeah, Darlington being a well-established track with a good race attendance and good race quality of on-track performance too, because that was some of the other things I was looking at. Okay, Kansas has great on-track performance, but the weather could be a problem. Some of these other tracks just don't have the on-track performance or struggle with getting attendance, so don't really want to reward them with a championship date if they can't fill out the seats at a regular weekend.
Yeah, and that's only if SMI doesn't give up track to use as a championship date, which I mean,
which again,
at this point it's 2025, as we talked about last week with the All-Star race and the promoter's caution, anything is possible nowadays. So,
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one or two SMI tracks, I would say that, yeah, NASCAR would probably only really want to move off of their championship date for two reasons. One, finale at Charlotte, so it's close to so it's the team's home track for the finale, or Vegas because one, Vegas still has good weather that time of year, and two, it is a bigger kind of glitz and glamour of a West Coast audience. I know Vegas isn't
Yeah.
technically West Coast, but close enough.
yeah. Let's get JP's thoughts.
So, I've been sitting here waiting for my thoughts, and my thoughts are, I believe that Las Vegas has a real good opportunity to get it just because I really enjoy the racing out there in Vegas.
I enjoy the racing at Vegas too. Again, the biggest hang up there is going to be whether or not SMI is what concessions SMI is willing to make to try and work with NASCAR to get the championship date away from a NASCAR owned track.
Yep.
Yep, it's literally all going to hang on that.
Because, I mean, Vegas has a recent renovation to their garage area. The at-track experience, from what I've seen and heard, is one of the top 2 or 3 in all of NASCAR. The on-track product is good. The weather's solid. I mean, Vegas, if I had to have picked one with no NASCAR SMI bias, I think Vegas would make the best placeholder while we wait for a potential Southern California, because we know that's where NASCAR's been trying to chase, and that was kind of the hypothetical when they first moved it to Phoenix, was that was a placeholder until Auto Club Short Track became a thing and took over the championship date. But at this point, who knows when or if Auto Club anything will be happening. Short track, bringing it back to the 2-mile configuration, anything.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to bring that back the 2-mile configuration. I don't know if you guys seen the recent photos. Those warehouses that they built are like right up against literally the end of what used to be pit road.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm not sure there's even room to really do a short track at this point with all those warehouses there. I don't even know if there's really room for the short track. And that's why I say I'm not sure that anything ends up ever there.
Yeah. All right, well, be interesting to see what comes down the pipeline. As everybody else is, I'm very, very excited that Homestead is coming back. Phoenix, like, it was fun the first year, but it's just kind of gotten real bland, especially with the new car.
Fizzled out.
But, yeah, definitely fizzled out. So next topic, someone else may have to take the lead on this, but, Indycar had yet another caution-free race this weekend at Barber Motorsports Park over in Alabama. Alex Palou got his 3rd win of the season. I believe it was 3rd or 4th. Yep. I didn't see a lap of it. I was recovering from illness. I watched practice and qualifying on Saturday, but that was about it. Anybody else catch the IndyCar race this weekend?
No, but yeah, so he's won 3 out of 4, and the one race he didn't win, he finished 2nd, so.
Yeah, so Alex Palou is on a tear, in short terms. Okay, so we will go into, our recap segment. Texas Motor Speedway was this weekend, race number 11 for the Cup Series. So before we get into anything, I just want to say moral of the weekend for all 3 series is grass is not your friend. Truck Series race Friday night. I watched it on the TV at the hospital as my fiance was sick with whatever I had at the same time, and we were at the ER most of the night. But Heim time struck again. Corey Heim notched another Truck Series win in a caution-filled race that was plagued by issues with the infield grass. Most notably, is it Gio Ruggiero that drives the 17 now?
Yeah, Giovanni Ruggiero.
Yeah. He clipped the infield grass and shot up the track, and I mean had a horrific collision with another truck. I can't remember who it was, but they hit so hard that his truck went airborne going into turn one. I thought for sure that he was going to flip over. Yeah, it was quite a night in the Truck Series race. Anybody catch that Friday night?
Yeah, I was able to watch that after I got back from day one at the out at Milwaukee. I was able to sit down in the hotel room and watch it. It was honestly a pretty good race, and I feel like honestly at this point we'd be talking about Corey Heim on a similar to Alex Palou level of domination run if he could just stop running into bad luck at some of like the last three truck races. Ironically, during the Triple Truck Challenge when there was extra prize money available, he could not seem to get out of people's people couldn't seem to stop running him over in the last three events.
Yep.
And the second he manages to break some of that bad luck, he ends up back in victory lane.
Yep. Jamie, did you catch any of it?
No, I did not. I was in New York with my family for a majority of the weekend, so unfortunately I don't have much to add on truck or Xfinity. I did catch the ending of the Cup race.
Okay, I got you. What about you, Tyler? Tyler has no headphone symbol. What about you, JP?
Yeah, I thought the Cook was pretty entertaining. That Greenland Cooker was very, it could have went any way. Me and my dad, we watched that race together and we thought, boy, what's going to happen? I felt like that was had you on the
I
edge.
I had some car issues. I was deafened for a reason.
Okay, I got you.
But what's up?
Continue.
I can answer right now.
Let's let JP finish real quick.
So I really think that was a good race, for the Cluck series.
All right. Tyler, did you catch any of the truck race Friday night?
I got bits and pieces. I mean, I saw that, people who won this, I don't know who won, so all I know is I got bits and pieces of mostly the wrecks.
Corey Heim won.
Oh, Clary Heim won? There's no shock there. He's, like, stupid good.
Yeah, Heim, Hemrick, Caruth, Ankrum, Gray, the top five.
Yep. So on Saturday, the Xfinity Series race, as we noted last week, Connor Zilic was out of the 88 due to a back injury, which an update within the last hour from Bob Pockris. Connor is confident that he will be in the Xfinity Series car for Charlotte and in the Cup car for the Coke 600. But Kyle Larson subbed for him, as we noted last week, and took the 88 to victory lane in the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. It looked like Justin Allgaier's race at one point until Chris Wright happened. Chris Wright, Chris left. Chris left and should have left a long time ago. But we've talked about Chris Wright before on here. during the Xfinity race at Daytona earlier this year. But once again, Chris Wright was a rolling chicane, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, was Allgaier running first or second when that incident happened?
First place.
He was
I
the
wasn't
leader?
watching. I was on the tournament floor playing at that point.
Oh, okay. Okay, so JP said he was the leader. Yeah, coming off of turn 4, Justin Allgaier was trying to lap Chris Wright, and Chris just could not hold a lane. And Justin ended up running into him and ruining his race, basically handing the race over to Kyle Larson to take the win. I know Jamie didn't see any of it. Tyler, did you catch any of it? All right, we will come back to Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, just from watching the box score or whatever, it definitely seems weird to see a Kyle Larson in an Xfinity Series race where he wasn't the dominant car of the night. In fact, he didn't win either of the 2 stages. And in stage 2, I don't know what happened, but he wasn't even in the top 10 in stage 2.
Yeah,
I don't know if there was some sort of pit strategy thing going on there.
I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I was sick on Saturday. I caught bits and pieces of it in between naps. I did wake up at the point where Justin Allgaier was involved in that incident because Adam Alexander's voice woke me up. JP, what do you think about the Xfinity race?
I think Chris Wright needs to go back to kindergarten. He is a rolling chicane like you guys have been knowing the past couple of weeks. And it's like, he's going to kill someone, in my opinion.
I mean, that brings up a good point. Like, maybe not necessarily like to that extreme, but when it comes to the Xfinity Series, like how much leeway do you give a driver who has gotten into some pretty significant incidences that's led to some pretty bad car wrecks?
Well, I really don't feel like I mean, maybe I'm missing the mark or forgetting something, but prior to this year, I don't really feel like we talked anything about or anyone really knew much about Chris Wright outside of as an on-track driver, outside the fact that he drove for underfunded teams and was usually way off the pace. But until the incident at Daytona where he may or may not have had brakes, I feel like we hadn't had an on-track controversy, and we ended up with 3 in the first 4 weeks because we had Daytona, we had Atlanta, and then at Circuit of the Americas, he had a questionable crash.
Right, and that's what I'm referring to. Like, when does
Circuit of the
enough
Americas, I feel like he's been. Oh, sorry.
No, pretty much like I said, is you had those 3 consecutive instances. He got it in check for like a week, it seems like, and then here he is right back in another one. So when is enough enough?
Well, I mean, I feel like I haven't heard about. Because I remember watching for Chris Wright incidents after that, and really, I don't think throughout the entire month of March or April he had a incident. And then first week of May, right back to it. So he was clean for 2 months, which isn't a lot, and certainly not enough to say, oh yeah, he's perfectly fine. But then you look at the track record of some of these other drivers. I mean, not to try and blame a certain driver, but we did have Jesse Iwuji make his return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Talladega last week after obviously some notable controversies over the last couple of years, including that Portland crash with Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, but he was quiet. Like, no one mentioned his name during the Xfinity race at Talladega, though. Like, he kept to himself and all that. But
But
uh,
I'm talking about like that entire year up until his responsibilities with the Navy pulled him away from the seat. I mean, he was on almost as bad a run as what Chris Wright started this year on.
yeah, that is true. I will note, so like the first 2 or 3 days of the week, I listen to all of the, podcasts that come out, DBC, Actions Detrimental, Dale Jr. Download, Teardown, stuff like that. And I was listening to Actions Detrimental today, and Denny was talking about this incident right here, and he said that Justin Allgaier and like the top 5 in the Xfinity race was running 29 to 30-second lap times at that point in the race. Chris Wright was running 34 to 35-second laps. He was 4 to 5 seconds off the pace, and then saw the leader coming up behind him, coming off of turn 4, and just could not hold his line. Like he started at the bottom of the track in turn 3, then went high, and then went back to the middle of the track. What is Justin Allgaier supposed to do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, I mean, even just to use sim racing as an example, anyone who's ever been on iRacing will tell you, hey, if you're off the pace, we don't care if you're trying to find speed. We'd rather you find consistency in a line and then build speed from there, rather than trying to find speed and being all over the place trying to do so.
Well, what I
Yep.
was also going to bring up earlier was when I said when is enough, I'm more talking from like a NASCAR perspective when it comes to race control. When are you going to issue like a black flag or a blue flag to say, hey, get off the track, you're way off the pace, we do not want incidences?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really,
so-
that's
more my gripe.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree 100%. As we see all the time when cars are involved in accidents on the ensuing restart, if they're able to continue, they have to meet minimum speed. If Chris Wright was running 34, 35-second lap times at the time of the incident, 5 seconds off the pace, I don't think he was making minimum speed. So I think this may be a really, excuse my language, but a very shitty judgment call from NASCAR.
Yeah, well, and then that's where I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know what the minimum speed requirement is, because obviously minimum speed requirement isn't exactly what the top 5 guys are running. I mean, as we've kind of talked about over the last couple of weeks, the back half of that Xfinity Series field is a significant dip from what the top 5 to 10 Xfinity cars are running for a pace.
Brian, and I know the exact minimum speed if you want me to.
All right, yeah, go right ahead.
So if the top guys were running 29.5 30-second laps, minimum speed would probably be 32.5 33-second laps.
Really? It's that narrow? Because, like, at that point, I think,
It's
like, 80% of the field probably isn't making that.
It depends on tire wear, too, as well.
Yeah.
It's a basic percentage based off of what the leaders are running and what the back is running. They have to be in a certain percentage of what the leaders are running for a consistent amount of laps.
Yeah.
So at that point, NASCAR just made a really poor judgment call in not having him get off the track.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't watching, so I don't know how long he was that far off the pace, because he also could have had, potentially, he might have thought he had a tire going apart or any other number of things that NASCAR might have been trying to confirm before black flagging him for being off the pace.
Well, granted, he did have some damage from one of the big incidents. I believe it was with the Josh Williams crash where someone again clipped the infield grass and just caused a melee on the restart. But in that particular incident, if I'm not mistaken, they were 30 to 40 laps into a run because the field was super strung out at that point. This wasn't like a restart and he just got lapped real quickly. It took them some time. It took Justin Allgaier some time to catch him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
Cause like, I mean, as I look through, I'm just looking through like the Xfinity Series results, and it's like some of the drivers in that kind of 25th to 30th place range. I mean, some of them never got a lap time better than 31.5 seconds, which, if that's the best they ever got, they were probably well below that at some point.
yeah.
I mean, these aren't even like necessarily bad drivers. I mean, this is Blaine Perkins in the Jordan Anderson racing car, and his best lap of the entire day was a 31.5.
Yeah.
So
transitioning to Sunday, the Cup Series race, Joey Logano wins his first race of the season in yet another caution-filled race. That saw 6 cautions in the final 50 laps of the race. And this race, believe it or not, saw more leaders than anybody thought we were going to see. With tire strategy, people taking 2 versus 4, staying out versus coming in. It was a very strategic race, if you will. And some of the crashes, caused by aero blocking, people losing the nose when they get behind the wake of another car. A lot of drivers were complaining about bumps in turns 3 and 4 that caused them to spin out and wreck, most notably Josh Berry and Kyle Busch. I'm sorry, Ryan. And,
I watched that one happen.
Again, sorry, Ryan. Michael McDowell had the race pretty much in the bag until yet another caution. He lost the lead. He lost the lead. He
was on 2 tires at that point. I mean, he was basically praying that he could just outrun the field on 2 tires versus 4, but being the only person on that, you're going to be in a world of trouble.
I think had it gone green, I think he would have won that race. But I just have to note the block that he put on Joey Logano. It gave me flashbacks to Joey Logano and Carl Edwards at Homestead when Edwards blocked Logano all the way down to the inside wall and ended up getting himself wrecked.
Yeah.
I thought we were headed for another Homestead incident at that point. And then not even a lap later, Blaney passed him and he got into the wake of Blaney's car, got loose and just murdered the outside wall, killing his race.
And honestly, I've actually seen a lot of criticism of McDowell over that incident, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go first on this one to talk about it.
Absolutely, sir.
I feel like this is almost something that NASCAR has brought upon themselves by the nature of all you need to do if you're in that situation is find one win. Then you can use the rest of your summer to basically prepare for the playoffs, to the point where McDowell truly doesn't believe that, and I'm almost certain that this is actually his thought process, is that I don't think he can top 5 or top 10 his way to a playoff spot because of the amount of surprise winners we're bound to see, especially if we see, say, an SVG at Mexico or at Sonoma later this summer. If SVG takes another playoff spot, then 1 or 2 other surprise winners that aren't him. I don't know if he has the speed to top 5 his way in, but if he can get a win at Texas, eliminates any question. And ultimately, again, it's a thing that NASCAR's format has, like it or not, has brought upon the series of when these guys do get an opportunity, they're not going to sit in line and take a second or third place. They're going to throw it all on the line to try and win.
Yep. Before we go any further, I would like to make a point, and I'm calling myself out here. I am eating my crow. I said at the beginning of the season that I would not be surprised if SVG did not sweep all of the road course races this year just based on his road course skill. And we've already had one road course race this year with Coda, and he wasn't even relevant in that race.
He led
And
second most amount of laps that day.
okay, well maybe I missed something there. But Jamie, in that same episode of the podcast, it was earlier this season, Jamie said something. He said that the other drivers have studied and are catching up to SVG. And I think that is 100% true at this point. Now, granted, we haven't had a road course race since Coda, and we have a few more to come, but I think that theory is going to hold true. I think
Mexico
at this point,
is the biggest chance.
It may be a miracle if SVG wins a road course race this year.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought the SVG was going to sweep them all, but I definitely think that people's expectations of what he could do were inflated because the one road course race we'd seen him in for the Cup Series was a track that at that point nobody had seen, so there was no practice. But when we go to tracks like Circuit of the Americas, when we get to places like Coda, or when we go to Sonoma, Watkins Glen, those are tracks that these Cup guys have seen 20, 30 times. Well, maybe not 30 times, but most of them have seen 15 to 20 times.
Yep.
To the point
there's some drivers, like, I would say probably about 20, 25 times, especially if we're getting Hamlin, Kyle Busch.
Yeah, especially when you factor in, like, Xfinity and Truck Series races across them as well. Not necessarily Sonoma, because for whatever reason, Sonoma, up until like, COVID, Sonoma hadn't had Xfinity or trucks there. The only option was like the K&N West series was the only like leech race for them to go down to at Sonoma for the longest time, but
So
but Mexico would be the track I would have circled if I'm an SVG fan. I think that because again, it's another Cup race where no Cup driver has any experience.
They're going to be going about 180, 185 into a tight turn one.
Yep.
That straightaway, if F1 cars are going 230 miles an hour down that front straightaway, I think Cup cars are going to be touching 190 before braking.
Well, that'll be a conversation for another day when we get closer to it, but.
Yeah, they may hit 190. They may hit 190 behind one another, but they ain't hitting 190 by themselves. We don't even see 190 in qualifying anymore.
Yeah.
That's false. Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan's one example of a track where they can hit
but
that.
You also got to remember with Mexico, the atmosphere is lower. The engine has more power because of more power.
Well, that's assuming that there's not a lot of moisture in the air, though, because that's the thing when you go further south. I mean, we see it in Daytona all the time.
They're a mile in the air. That track is a mile above sea level.
All right.
Oh. That's why F1 cars are able to go so fast with a higher downforce setup, because the air is thinner and less drag.
All right. Well, coming back to the United States, my big question coming out of the weekend, trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, they weren't the greatest races, but they also weren't the worst races ever. So my big question is, we saw Texas get reconfigured a few years ago, and it was god awful to start. Is it getting better? Like, we've seen slightly better races every time. Jamie.
I don't know if it's the track getting better or if it's just the constant changes to the packages that NASCAR is putting out. Now, we've definitely said our fair share of what we think about this year's version of these cars, but it's NASCAR's continuous effort to evolve with these cars in the packages to make for better racing, and I feel like at least for Texas, it has made it better. And everyone's going to have their slight gripes and stuff like that, but from the bit that I was able to see, when it came to Sunday's race, at least, it seemed like anybody had an opportunity to become a dominant car once they got out front. And that's a product of the package, that's a product of the car. I understand all that, but it was nice to see that if you could strong arm that car and get it to the front, you had a legit shot of winning the race.
But it also wasn't a situation where you could take two tires and hold off a field for 3 hours. Because like that's something that we've seen at certain tracks. Like I think we've seen it most notably at some of the short tracks like Martinsville, where you could take no tires for like 3 stops in a row, and as long as you had that air at the front of your car, no one was touching you. I mean, we saw it with McDowell. I mean, he was able to fight them off, but it was not without its challenges on each of those restarts.
Right, and that's what made it entertaining, and that's why I feel like the racing got better.
Yep.
Yeah, I really do think racing got better this weekend.
I'm still on the fence. I'm still not a huge fan of it. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't great. I still think it was just not the greatest race, but I still think Texas needs to go. I'm sorry, it's getting better, but we all know that the races are going to get sketchier as the track goes and tires going to wear more. It's going to get more dangerous from racing.
Yeah, it'll start to be more like old Atlanta.
But way faster.
I was going to say that's exactly what we want, though. Like, we want the track to be slick and worn out and tires wearing and drivers having to sling the cars around. Like, that was the biggest gripe from drivers when they repaved Atlanta and reconfigured it. You know, a bunch of them were pissed because they liked old Atlanta.
Yeah, and as a fan, I liked old Atlanta too, but obviously the several red flags that were needed to repair the track during those last couple of races kind of showed that at some point someone needed to do something. And I think that's actually something I'd like to point out as well, is I think we can acknowledge that the racing there is good and probably will be good for the next 5 to 7 years or so. But to maybe start looking at plans to reconfigure that way we don't have such an abysmal start when we eventually do repave it, say in 2036 or whatever. Let's just say we repave it 10 years from now. Yeah, or reconfigure it, that we don't have the same abysmal 5 to 7 year start to Texas, to whatever this new Texas would look like.
Well,
but to put the time and effort in now rather than waiting until it desperately needs a repave, because like with Atlanta, it felt like there was no real effort put into a thought process until it was too late and it needed to be repaved immediately.
The reason what they did was when they reconfigured Texas, they tried to make the old surface abrasive, and it sucked because they screwed up the surface when they were trying to make it like an older style surface, even though it was a brand new surface. And the asphalt didn't age correctly, and it's starting to age better, and that's why the racing.
Well, not only that, but they put down that freaking PJ1 stuff for the Indycars, and it sucked for the Cup cars. It made it literally a one groove track, and that was 5 years ago. And it's just
the PJ1 was so temperature specific. Like the PJ1 needs to be in a very sensitive temperature to be effective. And NASCAR at Texas, with when they run, just almost never got that temperature in it.
Right, and it's what, a year or two later that the Cup car, or any car besides Indycar, is actually able to venture into that second groove now.
Yep.
And people are complaining about the bump. which is honestly, I personally, that was one of my favorite parts, was watching the cars come off Thor, having a handful of the car.
Yep,
Yep.
and it's just one of those things that I'd like to see them, because like there were a lot of repaves in the late 2010s of racetracks. Like Kentucky was another repave
That was a
that didn't
terrible repave. Don't even get me started
that
on that.
didn't go well. And given some time, who knows? Maybe we'd be talking about Kentucky in the same realm as what we're talking about with Texas now, if Kentucky had survived.
Well, before we segue into the next question on this topic, let's get JP's thoughts real quick. He's been pretty quiet over there.
So, I think that they need to watch how much they repave the crops. Because repaves and reconfigurations are screwing up good race crops.
But there's also a point where a lot of these tracks, like again, looking to Atlanta, where they had to repave. They didn't have a choice to just ignore it for any longer. And we're going to get to that point as well with Texas is going to start to have the same kind of wear and tear problems. At some point, Charlotte will get to that same point as well. Vegas and Kansas will have that as well at some point, which will be a very sad day when they have to repave those tracks.
Yeah.
Because, and what happens when it does come time for, say, Vegas or Kansas or some of these other mile and a halves that have been great due to their 15-year-old surfaces.
Well, I will say, so I know why they repaved Texas to begin with. I'm not sure why they reconfigured it, but or especially turns 1 and 2. I don't know why they reconfigured, but the reason they repaved was because of the weepers. They had that one race a few years ago where it like just kept raining or misting, and they were there for like 4 days before they could get the cup race in because the track just wasn't drying at all. But that actually segues into what I'm about to say next. Is over the last, I would say, 2 weeks, there's been a heavy rumor picking up steam around the garage and all that stuff from someone in the NASCAR industry that Texas may be getting the Atlanta treatment here soon.
No. Please, no.
Well, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it, starting with Jamie.
I was going to say this as for my red flag, because this is the rant that I was getting ready to go on.
Please give us a rant. Please give us a rant.
All of the stupid NASCAR fans, the new age NASCAR fans, who like the pack racing and say that any track that is a mile and a half or more should all be like Atlanta. They say it's more exciting, it's this, it's that. Not every track has to be pack racing. Don't get me wrong. I like Atlanta. I like how the racing is there. But only for Atlanta because it makes sense. I do not want to see pack racing at Texas. I do not want to see pack racing at Las Vegas. I don't want to see pack racing at any other track but what they have now. It's not NASCAR. It's taking away the strategies and the driver ability and all the things that we have grown to love about the sport, and you're just gutting it to be gimmicky, and it's freaking stupid.
Thank you, Jamie.
Can I add on to that?
I love that. Yes, you can. Just 1 second. Do you guys remember, speaking of the whole gimmicky, stuff and how this should not be at any other track except Atlanta, do you guys remember the frickin' stupid restrictor plate package they put on the cars for the All-Star race at Charlotte a long time ago?
2018 Charlotte, yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dumb.
But please go ahead, Ryan.
It's eye candy.
Yeah. Well, this actually quite reminds me of of a similar movement that NASCAR did back after I believe it was the 1992 All-Star race, the one hot night. Charlotte put on an amazing show that night. And then over the next 5 to 10 years, there were like 17 new 1.5 mile racetracks. Kentucky, Kansas, Texas, Vegas, Atlanta, just a ton of very similar mile and a half racetracks trying to copy and trying to recreate that exact type of race from Charlotte, which clearly was something where it ended up becoming to the point where down through the latter part of the 2010s, it's like, oh, we go to our 17th mile and a half of the year and we're halfway through the year. Oh, yep, another mile and a half at Kansas, another mile and a half at Kentucky, another mile and a half at Texas, then going and having a little bit of a change at a 2 miler at Michigan before another mile and a half race at Texas.
And I feel like that's what they're trying to do right now with all these damn road courses.
Yeah, and that's where I said, like, and I've said this a couple of times over the last couple of years, I feel like we're at an okay spot with both road courses and super speedways where I don't mind having 6 as long as they're spread out a decent amount. That's also why I'm not a big fan of the double super speedway to start the year. I'd rather see them spread them out a little bit more than that. But I feel like anything more than 6 super speedway races and you're oversaturating the genre to the point where it'll make the Tallavegas, it'll make the Daytonas, it'll make even the Atlanta races less special if there's 14 drafting style tracks on the circuit versus 6.
Just like the don't get me started. Just now think about it. Think about it.
What?
Come on, Tyler. We're all here. We're all ranting.
We're all kind of letting our own
get it off your chest. This is the new segment. It's called Get Off Your Chest. What do you got to get off your chest, Tyler?
So you know how they said they wanted. You said no. How they said they wanted more road courses.
Yep.
Then now half the fucking schedule is road course races, and then everybody got sick of that. But it's literally a whole freaking cycle.
Yep. I mean, I remember. I think I said the exact quote. I think about 4, maybe 5 road courses is about the perfect amount, and rotating through, say, slot, like, I think you need your 3 standards, your Sonoma, your Watkins Glen, and your Charlotte Roval. I think those 3 are good mainstays. And then having slots 4 and possibly 5 to rotate in, say, Circuit of the Americas, maybe a Mexico rotating in and out, a Chicago rotating in and out, but not necessarily adding all of them on top of one another.
Yeah.
And that was actually my worry back even during because there was the more short tracks movement around the same time as the more road courses movement. And it's like, if we add too many more short tracks, it'll again start to make the Martinsville Mayhem moments or the Bristol night race feel less and less valuable if we start having 18 short track races on the schedule. Now, do I wish we had maybe one more short track, especially back then when the short tracks were really, really good? Because right now the short track package really is not great. So, that was another one.
You guys know my stance on the road courses. I was fine. I grew up with NASCAR, and all I grew up with was Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and I was perfectly fine with those.
Same.
I was excited.
I think the Roval was pretty good.
Hold on.
Yep.
I was excited for the Roval. It was good for the first year or two. After that, I was done with it. I'm still done with it. I don't know why it's still on the schedule. Like, I'm so done with all of these road courses. But we're getting off topic here. We're talking about Texas getting the Atlanta treatment. JP, do you have a rant about Texas getting the Atlanta treatment?
Yes. I I don't like it. I just don't like it. I mean, come on, NASCAR. What are you doing? You always kind of turned, Atlanta into a super speedway race. What do you want to do?
Actually, I do have one suggestion as to a way they could actually do the the Atlanta type treatment to Texas to where I would actually accept it.
Okay.
They just need
Go
to
ahead.
rebuild Texas into the biggest track. That way the Texas race can have the biggest track in NASCAR. So it needs to be a 3-mile speedway. They can't keep it a mile and a half and do the Texas treatment, or the Atlanta treatment. But if they do an Atlanta style treatment to a new 3-mile Texas, and they can at least have the branding of everything's bigger in Texas, including the biggest super speedway, then maybe I could get behind it, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to keep it at a mile and a half if they're talking about specifically the Atlanta treatment to it.
Ooh, I have an idea. Or we can make another D-shaped oval like Michigan. High bank, high speed.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even think outside of sure, the new car hasn't been awful at Michigan, but I mean, I
Michigan's
remember.
actually been pretty good, actually. I've
Though I
liked
remember
Michigan.
on the previous car, though, Michigan was one of the more boring races, and people were talking about possibly getting rid of or turning Michigan, trying to repave or reconfigure Michigan into a baby Daytona before Atlanta happened.
If we're gonna go with Ryan's idea for Texas, for those of you who run iRacing, let's just make it into iRacing Super Speedway.
Yeah,
35,
exactly.
Oh my God.
35-degree banking in the turns, 2-mile long straightaways.
It's a 3.5 mile long track.
Yeah, I ran a cup car there on iRacing one time, and by myself in qualifying was hitting 225 miles an hour. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, hey, if you're gonna reconfigure Texas and you were committed that you're gonna make it a super speedway drafting style track, you have to make something unique about it. Make it the biggest. Make it the absolute biggest track.
Yep.
I actually have an idea for Texas real quick before we move on.
All right.
Instead of reconfiguring it completely, return the banking to turn 1 and turn 2 back to 24 degrees, but rather than have a single banking to 24 degrees, make it like Miami and have progressive banking in 1 and 2 and keep 3 and 4 the same. I think that would actually promote side-by-side racing, slingshot to the back.
Don't they technically have progressive banking in the current Texas? It's just like it starts out at 18 degrees and it goes up.
It's 20 degrees. It's 20 degrees through and through.
Okay, I thought it started out at like 15 degrees and as you went up, it gets up to 20, which isn't really enough to make a big difference.
Yeah, it's 20 degrees through and through. They purposely did that. I don't know why. I don't know why they wouldn't have done that opposed to 3 and 4.
Well,
but
and then that's where my old idea that I had stowed away from something I had suggested for Atlanta when the Atlanta repave was coming up was, what about possibly going and making Atlanta, or now Texas, into a concrete track similar to, say, a Dover or what Bristol was when they were concrete. Because those tracks, I mean, we hadn't ever seen really a concrete mile and a half.
No more concrete.
The problem with the Texas in the summer, Ryan, concrete is not meant to withstand over 90-degree weather for so long before it starts deteriorating because it deteriorates.
Yeah, that's why maybe that would be a better suggestion for one of those more northern tracks. Maybe a Kansas could take that kind of thing because Kansas doesn't really get over 90 very frequently.
Oh, all right. Well, great rants, guys. I love it. Great content. I love it. I'm going to try to take some sound bites from this and post it on social media. I think the fans will get a kick out of that. But we are going to transition into a new segment of sorts. This is not going to be an every week thing. It's just for tonight, and we'll touch on it again later on in the season. But we are going into our 12th race of the season. So we are going to give some progress reports on some of the big teams. Most notably Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Penske, and 2311. What would you grade them? And just give a brief description as to why you gave that grade. We will fire.
School.
Yeah. We will fire it off with Jamie. What are your grades for these teams, sir? This far in the season.
So if we're doing grades, how about this? Instead of all of us giving grades on the individual teams, you tell us which team to give a grade on, and then we give our take on it.
Okay. Jamie, I will give you Penske.
Penske. I would give them a C. And the reason for that is it wasn't
sorry.
It wasn't
quick,
until Azros. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, are we including the 21 because that is a Penske affiliated car? Are we including Barry and the 21 in that grading?
Yes, anyone involved with Penske Racing. But this is Jamie.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that before we went into that because obviously with or without Barry, that grade could change.
Okay. That it does change things because I didn't necessarily have him as part of Team Penske. So if we're including him, then it gets bumped up to a B.
Okay, that's about what I thought.
Yeah. Because as a team, I'll put this in quotation marks, as a team with the allotted drivers under Team Penske, we've seen some pretty bonehead mistakes from the drivers, from the crew members, finishes not going their way, drivers blowing up on teammates, just not the best of look. Now, as of late, they've rebounded. Joey finally got a win. Austin Cindric got a win. And if we're including Josh Berry got a win.
Yep. So
I mean, those are the positives, but you got Ryan Blaney over here, 2 seasons removed from his championship, and he's not driving the best. Let's be honest about it. He's not the champion of old as of right now, and he needs to quit making the silly mistakes. He needs to start being consistent. The team needs to do a better job of putting him in position to make an impact on races. Their strategies need to improve, but all in all, this point in the season, having 3 wins under Team Penske, if we're including Barry, that deserves a V.
All right. Real quick, to be fair for Blaney, he does have 4 DNFs, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 4 DNFs on the year through 11 races.
Yep, 2 of them were engine failures, and 2 of them were crashes, not of his own doing. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, that's also why I said crew members need to put him in a position to where he can be better. Because I was acknowledging the engine blows, that it kind of depends on the crew members and the people in the back office Penske building the bodies and the engines and all that stuff.
Okay, yeah, innocent bystander last week at Talladega when he got wiped out. And he's still 7th in the overall standings, so he certainly is nowhere. He's the one Penske driver prior to the last 2 weeks with Cindric and Logano's wins. He was really the one Penske driver I had as basically a lock for the playoffs. So I felt like the other 2 in-house Penske drivers were a lot shakier as to whether or not they'd make the playoffs. Now they've both got wins, so.
Shakier, yes, but I would not call them a lock just because of the DNFs.
Yeah, I mean, because prior to the Talladega DNF, he was, I think, 5th or 6th in overall points. I mean, that puts him very safely up there in the scoring. And I mean, even if you do factor in 1 or 2 surprise winners, he was still very safely above the cut line.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, even right now, he's still 85 points to the good.
All right, Tyler, I am going to give you Joe Gibbs Racing. What would you grade them?
Come on, Tyler. Don't have mic issues now. I want to hear this one.
Well, again, with Joe Gibbs Racing, are we counting any sub-teams? Because obviously 2311 is their sub-team, but they've grown to the
Nope.
point where they're basically their own team. They're not on life support from Gibbs.
Nope.
Okay.
We
Just
will.
wanted to clarify that.
Oh, you're good. We will circle back to Tyler if we have the time. We'll move to Ryan. I give you Hendrick Motorsports.
All right. So Hendrick Motorsports. I know they've struggled out the gate, but no. I'm just kidding. They're getting an A.
Care to elaborate, Ryan? Why are you giving them an A?
They're Hendrick Motorsports. They've got the top two drivers. They've got 1-2 in the overall point standings, along with Chase Elliott currently sitting in fourth place. Technically a tie for third with Denny Hamlin. So, I mean, that's three drivers, potentially 1, 2, 3, if given a slightly better performance at Texas. Literally all he needed was 1 point to break that tie with Denny, and he would be in third. And even Bowman is top 10 in points as the furthest back of the Hendrick drivers going into any given weekend. What's the one team that there's always at least one, if not 2 to 3 names everybody's talking about going into the week? It's Byron, it's Larson, and then usually Elliott or Bowman are usually thrown in there as well. But they have been the talk of the season.
All right.
I mean, aside from a Bell three-peat early in the year, I mean, the season has been largely dominated by Byron and then the crushing wins by Larson.
I don't disagree. JP, I give you 2311 Racing.
2311 Racing. Love it. Because I give them a sad B minus.
All right. I'm curious to hear your explanation on this one because that's not necessarily the grade I was thinking.
Alright. So I thought the 35 team of Riley Hurst would be more protective. What, Mom? Okay.
Shout out to JP's mom on the podcast.
So
What up, JP Mom?
Yeah.
Anyways,
so it's a B minus because I thought Riley Hurst and that team would be higher up in points. And the teammates would help Riley Hurst be more up there in points.
I'll be completely honest, I actually kind of forgot that Riley Herbst was in a 2311 car. I assumed I kind of just started lumping him in with the John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones team. But, I mean, rookies struggling. I mean, Byron was down in the back part of during his rookie year with Hendrick in 2018. So, I mean, it's not unheard of for rookies to be down there. And honestly, the reason why I said I was a little bit surprised by that is because they also have their two main drivers, the ones that they've been putting all the time and investment into over the last couple of years, both safely inside the top 10 in regular season points. And I mean, this is one of the best starts to a season Bubba Wallace has had in a while. Might be a half step behind from where Tyler Reddick is, but I mean, I would definitely grade them on a little bit of a curve, considering they aren't even Toyota's top team. Because I don't grade them the same way I would grade, say, a Hendrick Motorsports, where the expectations coming into the year were a lot higher. I mean, the expectations for Reddick was to be top 5, but for Bubba, the expectations are basically just to be in the playoffs, maybe lurking around that top 10, but he's safely inside that top 10 right now, so.
Yep.
Again.
Tyler, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. What is your grade for Joe Gibbs Racing?
I would give him a B.
All
I didn't
right.
really watch much. Like I said, I didn't watch much of the race. I didn't see how they performed.
No. Hold on. I'm not talking about just the race. I'm talking about from Daytona to now.
Everybody except for Christopher Bell and Denny, I give Denny and Christopher Bell an A, and Gibbs and Gregson a B. That's why I give it a B, because it's really only been Denny
I mean, Gibbs and Briscoe.
or Gibbs and Briscoe, my bad. I am giving them a little bit lower grade just because they haven't really been performing up to par. It's Joe Gibbs Racing, the top tier NASCAR team. You can't have just two of their teams carrying the weight.
All right. Well, I didn't have this team on the list, but I'm going to give a grade. I'm going to pick Richard Childress Racing. I am going to give them a D. Obviously Kyle Busch is carrying that team right now. Granted, he has, as Stephanie in our group chat would say, he has the worst luck in recent weeks. They have had flashes in the pan, so to speak. Austin Dillon, kind of mid-pack. Granted, he did get me a good points day. I'm glad I went out in left field for race picks last week. But yeah, I give them a D. If they can maybe fire off a win or two, that grade will come up later on in the season. But for right now, it's a D for RCR.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Dillon's only 16 points behind Kyle Busch in terms of the regular season points battle. And considering their lack of a win, the points battle might end up becoming what it comes down to as to whether or not one or both of them might have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. But
so
we'll circle back to that later on in the season. We are going to transition.
I feel like there's one other team that we probably should at least make a mention of.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like, well, really, there's two teams that I would have had on there as well. Would have been Trackhouse, and then potentially the Roush Group would have been the other team I would have considered us putting on that list if we're going to do some mid-season grades. Because I think both of those teams deserve to be in that same conversation if we're going to include 2311.
That is true. Jamie, you want to give a grade for Trackhouse?
As far as Trackhouse is concerned, nobody likes yelling the name Melon Man more than me.
Melon Man!
Rightfully so. Thank you for saying it the right way. I'm still kind of recovering from my rant, so my enthusiasm wasn't there yet.
Yeah, no worries.
But I'm giving them like a C- to a D, just because I haven't gotten the opportunity to scream, here he comes, it's the Melon Man, and his pet sidekick, the Mexican wonder, Daniel Suarez.
Chastain was second, by the way, this weekend, just for
reference.
I
know, but yeah. How many races are we in and we're finally mentioning his name?
Yep.
And like he's done decent with points. I mean, he's what is it, 12th? 11th?
11th in points. Yeah, 11th right now.
Yeah, so I mean, Chastain's been average, which considering things is a plus, but Daniel Suarez just hasn't been it. And I don't know if it's the driving style that he uses or what it is, but he's been borderline non-existent in this season so far. So I'm going to do a very low C- or a high D+, depending on how you look at it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, considering
And
Suarez, it seemed like he's dipped a bit, and then you've got the fact that SVG has shown next to no improvement on ovals through the first 11 races, which obviously no one was expecting to understand ovals right away, but there's been close to no improvement over the
I'll put it this way.
10
I
ovals.
forgot that SVG was part of Trackhouse, so
Yep.
if we're adding his weight into it, then now it's a solid, just regular D. It's not even a D+ now.
Yep.
all right. Well, since you brought it up, Ryan, I'm going to give you RFK Racing.
All right. Well, RFK, I think they've definitely taken a step back from where they were over the last year and a half or so, because the last year and a half it felt like they were solidly like knocking on the door of true championship contention with at least one driver, if not, and especially through the last year. Felt like Brad Keselowski finally was starting to hit his stride alongside Chris Buescher. Now, obviously, the expansion to a third car does tend to strain a team just that little bit, as we've seen with 2311, with Trackhouse. Expanding to a third car isn't easy, so the fact that Buescher is still safely up inside the playoff picture as of right now, would love to see a little bit more speed from him. Yeah, Ryan Preece, we've seen some great highlights from him, although most of those highlights are usually while his car is very high up in the air. And then you've got Brad Keselowski, where is Keselowski settled in points? He's in
the 30s.
Yeah, he's currently 32nd in points, so. Yeah, I would probably give this team probably a C+, just because I feel like they've taken a step back from what I feel like the last couple of years where I would have been giving them B+ to maybe even A- level grades. The fact that we really haven't talked about any of their three guys as being in close contention for a real win outside of potentially the plate tracks. I think we talked about Buescher maybe at one race being close to a potential win, but it's one of those things that it was around the month of May when they really started to turn it around last year. So hopefully, they can make that same rally in the month of May this year. Of course, we're going to Kansas, the site of that insanely close finish for Buescher, but as of right now, I'd probably give him either a B- or a C+, so.
All right. Well, like I said, we will circle back around to these later on in the season. But we are going to transition into green flags and black flags. And as always, for our new listeners, green flags is something that you did not like, or green flags is something that you did like during the race weekend. Black flags is something that you did not like. But I'm going to throw a little twist on it this week. For your black flag, you cannot say Chris Wright. And we will fire it off with Jamie.
Oh, man. Nah, but green flag, as we kind of stated earlier, like from what I had seen at Texas, this was definitely a better race at Texas. Could there be improvements on the track and all that fun stuff? Yes, but as far as recent memory of Texas, I enjoyed this race. So that will be my green flag. My black flag, I kind of went on my rant, so I can't use that for my black flag. So you know what? My black flag goes out to you, Denny Hamlin. From a stats standpoint, you should have been someone who was going to be catapulting me to a good race points pick kind of the day. And you had to send my day up in flames and make me not care about the race. So thank you.
What happened to Hamlin?
He blew up.
Okay. Yeah, I tuned in about the halfway point in the race, and that's when I started kind of following the race along with it, so I didn't know what happened to him.
During driver intros, he came out and waved and did the horns down. or like screw
Oh,
Texas, and I think Texas karma came back to him a little bit.
yep. As a one of the Texas fans in the pit probably
And see,
cut a brake line or something on his car.
here I was loving that because I was like, oh yeah, Dennis and Menaces came to play. He walked out with horns down. Let's get it. I want him to win this to see how the Texas reaction was going to be for him. And then sure enough, kaboom, flames coming out from the bottom of the car. Everyone's cheering and I'm over here just slouched back in my couch looking at the TV going, I hate you, Dennis. I hate you so much.
What about you, Tyler?
Having fire issues. I'll be back.
All right, Ryan.
All right. So for my green flag of the week, I will give it to the tire strategy and the fact that people were able to use multiple different tire strategies to actually be able to gain and lose spots. And to the fact that the race up until the 6 rapid fire yellows right near the end of the race were able to keep it green long enough to where there was time for those tires. And my black flag will be for the fact that why couldn't Texas put on a normal Texas race when I choose not to be around for Texas weekend because Texas is Texas?
How many times are you going to say Texas all in the same time? Go.
Yeah. Well, because when I was trying to decide on which weekend I was not going to be around for, my 2 that I had narrowed it down to for regionals in my general area would have been either heading out to the Milwaukee one or the one that would have been during Bristol weekend. I really wish I'd missed Bristol's weekend instead of Texas. And how often do you say that? That I wish I missed Bristol instead of Texas.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yep.
All right, JP, what about you?
So my black flag is a little bit different than most weeks. My black flag has to go to the pit crew of, I don't remember what car it was, but there was a car turned around in pit road, late in the race, and that to me is a safety thing. So I guess what I'm saying is pay attention.
Well, I mean, cars get spun around backwards into the pits. I mean, I remember Talladega, what was it, 2019 or one of those years that Brad Keselowski spun backwards into his pit stall, parked perfectly, and his crew just ended up performing the stop while he was backwards. I mean,
Yep.
cars end up backwards in pit road not all that infrequently, so.
Yep, I was there at that race. He was driving that black Snap-on car that gave me Earnhardt vibes.
Yeah. And then my green flag has to go to the before mentioned Kyle Lawson. Kyle Lawson is going to have a great May. And he's off to a rousing start with the Indy 500 later this month, Coca-Cola 600 double. So yeah.
All right. Tyler, are you ready? All right, guess not. All right, I'll give mine. I'm going to give my black flag first because I have a few green flags. My black flag goes to the infield grass for just claiming a number of cars and trucks this weekend. Not really the grass, but I would say any racetrack that still has real grass, they should follow what Charlotte Motor Speedway has done and put artificial turf in. It's 2025. It's time to upgrade.
Yeah, I just don't want to see tracks paving their front straightaways and not having any green on the track, because that was a real
No,
loss when Phoenix paved over their grass.
I agree. My green flags, number one goes to the fans that showed up on Sunday. I heard that this was the biggest attendance for a Texas Cup race in 15 years. So kudos to the fans. My second green flag goes to, believe it or not, Fox Sports. They had a new race director this weekend, and I read on Twitter that the final, let's see, I caught the race. I listened to most of the race in the car. I caught the last 10 laps or so when I got home. But the final 50 laps went commercial free.
That is a big upgrade over what we got last week, where we had two side-by-side commercials leading to no commentary in the final 15.
Yeah.
Yep.
Including a commercial break starting at 9 laps to go and ending at 5 to go.
Yep. And what you got, Jamie?
I was going to say, can I give one other honorable mention for a green flag?
Sure thing.
I'm going to give it to Austin Cindric. This guy, he's riding some momentum. Got a dub, and then how does he follow that up? He goes out to Texas and leads the second most laps next to Kyle Larson.
Nice. Heck yeah. This could be
I didn't see him lead at all.
This could be a breakout year for Austin Cindric. It looks like he's been doing pretty good this season.
I mean, it would be nice to build value on the number two. It's been kind of lackluster since Rusty Wallace stepped out of it, and they need that next guy to make the two relevant again, and he could be it.
Yep.
Sorry, 1 second. Did you just say that Rusty Wallace is the last time that two-car had value? Because I couldn't remember a 2012 season with Brad Keselowski winning a championship and Keselowski winning a lot of races very good in that too.
Kurt Busch was also really good too.
Well, yeah, that one as well, but I was mainly thinking, like, okay, Brad Keselowski won a championship and for, like, a full decade, basically, was elite in that number two car from 2012 or 2011 was his first season in the two car?
2011.
Yeah, so from 2011 to 2021, I mean, he was on an absolute tear, and it's genuinely surprising he only got the one championship in that time frame, although obviously the rotating formats kind of limited that.
I'll let you have that. I purposely left out Brad Keselowski because I'm a hater of his. But that's all right.
As a Kyle Busch fan, I don't like as a Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards fan, I don't like the guy, but I can acknowledge his greatness.
You're throwing the ones up.
And my third green flag goes to Austin Dillon for getting me a good points day in race picks this week. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate that very much.
Here's to the Austins.
Yes, sir. Tyler, what do you got?
What are we on now?
Green flag, black flag. And we're not allowed to have Chris Wright be our black flag.
Oh, my black flags, honestly, I don't really have a black flag. I think I'm gonna have to go green flags, but just like the race actually was called pretty well except for that one incident. My
All
green
right.
flag's NASCAR officiating this week.
All right, well, that's a pretty rare W for them.
Yep. Short, sweet, and to the point. All right. Well, we are nearing the end of the show, and you guys know what that means. We are going to Kansas this week, and it is the site of some of probably the best racing with the Gen 7 car. Obviously, we had the closest finish in NASCAR history last year between Kyle Larson and Chris Buescher. Maybe, just maybe, we'll see something similar to that this weekend. I'm hoping. But we are going to make some picks. I have our names on the wheel, as you can see. And I will spin for the first pick overall, and that goes to Jamie.
It did not turn out too well for me having the first pick like it did last week. Let's see. I'll go with stats one more time and we'll see. But I'll go with now I'm second guessing myself. Do I want to go with stats? Do I want to go with vibes? I'm gonna go Cindric.
Ooh,
All right.
okay. Bold pick there.
I will
Yeah.
say I believe that's the first time Austin Cindric's been picked on this podcast.
It probably
I
has been. So
think he
why
might have
not?
gotten that selection at one of the super speedways.
Maybe. All right. Pick number 2.
Or wheel assignment.
Yep. Goes to JP.
All right. JP wants. My dad's going to hate me with Kyle Watson.
Yep,
Wow.
I was kind of hoping he'd fall a little further.
Wow. No shocker there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. The only surprise is that Kyle Larson was still available at the second overall pick.
Yeah.
Next pick goes to Tyler.
Who's been picked already?
Larson and Cindric.
I'm going with Chris Buescher.
All
right.
right.
Good pick there. Next pick, it's down to 2 people, and it is going to go to Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, finally. Glad I'm not the last one.
Hey, I was last week too.
I know. Last week it was down to you and me as well that time. So I was taking last there as well. Alright, well, let's see. I am really tempted to go William Byron, but I think I'm gonna stick to I think I'm gonna go ahead and take Christopher Bell.
Alright. And last but certainly not least, last pick goes to yours truly, me. And once again, I am going out on a limb, trying to get a good points day. I'm going to go with a driver who has won at Kansas before. I am going to, for the first time ever, pick Bubba Wallace.
Alright, that's a pretty good pick. I probably should have gone Reddick, but oh well.
Yep. Alright, so as always, me and or Ryan will get the rest of the picks later on this week from everybody else. And before we
I'm
close
home
this
this week,
show
so I
out,
can definitely get them done.
alright. Before we close the show out, it is time for another rousing edition of Jamie's Trivia. And as always, Jamie will ask the question. We will give our guess. If one of us gets the answer right, we get a bonus point for race picks. If not, Jamie gets the bonus point. So Jamie, please fire away, sir.
Yeah, so this Sunday will be May 11th, which will continue a string of races being run in Kansas. But on this particular day, back in 2019, we had a series of drivers go through and do their damnness to take over that race. My question to you is the lap leader who led the most laps in that race was Kevin Harvick. How many laps did he lead?
Ooh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Good question.
Are you giving us a buffer?
5 laps.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So,
because the funny thing about it is that I think this is the rate that spring race is the one that they have at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for the direction and commentary challenge. If I'm not mistaken, that's the exact race that they have for that one.
Okay.
oh,
All right. So, how many laps is the race? I know it's a 400-mile.
267.
267. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Every 400
Ty-
mile and a half race is 267.
All right. Tyler, what is your guess?
What was the question? Sorry, I've been dealing with a fire. So what was the question?
Laps led at Kansas for Harvick. He was the most laps led in the 2019 spring race. How many laps?
181 of 267.
How?
All
How
right.
many laps?
That's a lot. Yep, I was gonna say, I think that's over.
All right. Ryan?
Let's go ahead and say 55. Because there was a lot of swapping around of leaders that day. I think that there's a good chance that the most laps led on the day was probably somewhat low.
All right.
all
JP?
right. I'm going 105 laps.
Oh, JP. Nice.
What? All right.
So
What's the actual number, Jamie?
JP was 1 lap off.
104?
It was 104 laps by Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
Everybody give
Nice
it up for
job, JP.
Good job, JP.
Yeah.
Good job. All right. Well, JP gets the bonus point. I will update that total in race picks.
Just out of curiosity, what would you have guessed, Greg?
I was gonna guess 110.
No, you have been just outside of the 5 lap window.
Yep. Good job, JP.
Yeah.
With that is going to close our show out. As always, a big thank you to all of our sponsors, Century PC, Sleeps, Fanatics, Fubo TV, Smackin' Sunflower Seeds, Dr. Squatch, Bulletproof Coffee. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast. And please be sure to check out our other podcasts on our Social Sports Pad Podcast Network channels. Biscuits and Penalties, Dirt and Turf, The Hard Count. All great podcasts. These guys do an amazing job. But with that, I am Greg. And for Jamie, Tyler, Ryan, and JP, this has been the Lap Down. And we will see you guys after Kansas. Deuces.
Deuces.
Deuces.